Head to GoGuardian. The website is account.goguardian.com. Once you get to that login, you want to just press Login with Google, and that will bring you to your home page, which should be basically blank except for the classes that are pending. Your classes are going from eSchool through Clever and then into GoGuardian. So all of this means that the students are officially added and removed as they are from eSchools. So what will happen is generally if a student is added to your class, it takes about a day for the names to process through, but then they'll come. And you'll know that all of these classes are synced because they have the C from Clever right there on them. Once you click for each of those classes that are impending, all you need to do is click that accept button for each of them. Your whole schedule is there. And what we'll do is we're just going to take a look at what you can do for scenes for those classes. Once you've accepted the classes that come from Clever that show impending, you'll then have them in your active zone. The first thing that I would do is create a scene. In the scenes, you have the option of allowed websites and blocked websites. Allowed websites are very restrictive. Students can only go to the sites that are on that list. So this would be something where if you're having a test, you only want them to go to Canvas, you can create a list that is that short. That's the only places they can go. Blocked websites are a good thing to create a list for everyday classroom use where you will always use it and it can just run in the background. I'm going to hit create a list, give it a name like No YouTube and a color. And then you can add any more description if you need to, and then you'll hit this next button. After the next, you can then search for things that you'd like to block, like YouTube. So once you search for that, it will come up with a list of different sites, and then anything that you wanted you could add into that list. So I'll add YouTube. Do you know what? Cool Math Games is a distraction. I don't want them to be on Netflix or Spotify or Pandora or SoundCloud or Facebook. I'm just going to add all of those things. Now there are a couple more options. The quick list are just a list of things. CD does not have a list yet, but GoGuardian does have some list. Advanced filtering. This would be something where I've already blocked out YouTube, but I could add in here anything that's a specific YouTube channel or link that I would like them to be able to get to. Then there's also auto open tabs. So if you wanted a website to open every single time your students start class, like your Canvas page, you could then put this in, and when you have your class starting, it would automatically open that for your students when you have this scene applied. Once you're done with all of the things you want to add on, you would just press save. Now my link is down below for No YouTube, and I can apply that to a classroom. I can make as many scenes as I want to, and then I can flip between them easily once I have my classes up and running. I'm going to go back to that classroom tab then. And now that I have my classroom tab, then I can go ahead and do some of the other settings that I'd like to use. Now that I have my classrooms here, I'm going to take a classroom and I'm going to set it to automatically run. So you can just turn it on and off as you need, but if you go into settings, the first thing I want to do is add in that default scene, that No YouTube, and hit Update Classroom. That will now run automatically every time I run this class. I can then go to Scheduling, Add Schedule, and I'll start this. I want it to start at 7:20 and run until 8 a.m. I might even go and be picky enough to say, do you know what? I only want this to run until 7:56. So I'll have that run every day of the week. GoGuardian is set up so that it cannot run after school hours and it cannot run on the weekends. Hit Add Schedule. And now this will automatically run every single day. I can turn it off for any single day. So let's say we have off on a Monday. I can press that tab there and it will now not run on that day. but otherwise everything here that has a tab will run, and I can add other dates and times if I need to. The only other thing I might want to do is add a teacher. So I have the main teacher, the owner of this class, and this is set from eSchool. But let's say I want to add a secondary teacher, someone else that should be in here. I can just click add a teacher, search for any name, and then select a role. I would go with teacher. You don't want to set them as owner, that's you. Helper doesn't really give a lot of actual helping options, so I go for another teacher, and then you can add that teacher to your classroom. At any time, if you no longer need them, you would also have the ability to remove them. But then when you run the class, or they could run the class, they have that same tab from their classrooms where they could have all of the same monitoring and be able to interact with students. When you have a session running, your sessions will be up here. So if you have multiple, you can toggle between those sessions. So when a session is live, you'll then be able to see what the students are doing. So anyone who's offline is either not on a Chromebook at all, or the Chromebook that they have, like if they're on a personal device and it's not connected, that's what you would see. Otherwise, you'll see mini thumbnails of exactly what they're working on. Up at the top here, you can see the screens, timelines, and timelines would give you an idea of the things that they're working on. So you can see that I started this session at 8:51, so it's tracking from when I started the session. Screenshots is where if you take a screenshot of what a student is doing, it would come up here. You could call the students, which this has very limited uses when you're in school, but for someone who's teaching cyber, that might have more effect. And then there are check-ins that you could run. So if you start a check-in, it just gives students emojis. So if you're doing something during class, you could do a check-in on your learning just by pressing this and ask them, like, how do you feel about this concept? And they could all respond. Going back to screens, this is where most of your work you're going to do is here. Up at the top, there's also chat, so you can turn chat on for the entire class. I will not, because a little message would pop up for the students and it would look like their teacher is trying to contact them. You could also turn on off-task alerts. Right now, no scene is applied, but if I wanted to apply a scene to a class, it would be here. So here's where, even if you have a default scene for your class, you can change it at any moment by right here, where you can then see the different scenes that you have. So if you turn on the chat, that would be a way to communicate with the students. Now, each individual student. So I can take a look at what this student is doing, and I can do things like I could exclude the student if they shouldn't be within this scene because maybe they're working with a different teacher. I could take them out. I could also open a tab for a student. So if I press the open tab, I would just put in the website that they need to be here and press open tab. It also shows me all of the tabs that they have open. So if they have something up, but they have something that they shouldn't on the other, you would be able to close any tabs that you need to over on the side. You could lock their device. You can also take a screenshot of what they're working on, and then you can annotate. Now, if you press the annotate, you can press a pointer color and the size, and if you put a dot here, that dot would show up on their screen. It stays there for about 20 seconds. But if there's something maybe you really want them to focus on a certain point and verbal communication isn't working, you can just do that and it will work for them immediately there. So you can have them here. You can sort them by first name, last name, online, offline, and look at max per row, or maybe you'd like them to be bigger so that you can see more students. But all of these things are the things that you can do when you have your session up and open. When you selected a student to interact with, if you would like to see their screen full screen, and this could even be used to show in front of the whole class, all you need to do is put the magnifier over it, and now you can see their screen in a full screen view. So this could be shared at the front of the room. There's a number of different uses that you would want to be able to see their full screen. And then you just shrink it again and it goes back to, and you can even close it to go back to your whole class view.